Good morning and welcome to Counterpoints. Emily, how you doing?
I'm good. We've got Sagar on deck, don't we?
Yes, we've got a great slate of guests today, / co-hosts.
Yeah.
So we've got Sagar, who's going to join us for about half of the show. After that, we're going to be joined by one of the two victims of the assault in Crown Heights last week. This woman was a random bystander who was just checking out the scene. Somebody started filming her, so she put a kind of scarf over her face, and instantly this crowd of pro-Israel people was like, oh, she must be anti-Israel because she's got a scarf on her face. And a harrowing scene emerged. This will be her first on-camera interview. Eric Adams has actually asked her to come forward so that he can press charges against the people who were involved with this.
And we have new video footage as well.
And we have her video footage, which has not been seen before. So you're going to see this mob kind of from her perspective. We're also going to talk to African journalist Cherno Ba. He's going to talk about the what's going on in Africa post-USAID. He has been a longtime critic of American interference in Africa and USAID. So he's going to he'll talk about that and a bunch of other things. GDP numbers came out this morning, so we'll talk about that. Last night, Donald Trump did an interview with Terry Moran.
Wild interview with Terry.
Wild interview with Terry Moran, a rally. He met with Gretchen Whitmer. I think the theme of today's show is the break with reality in a way that we haven't really seen in our politics before. There's just it's just getting weird.
Didn't that happen in like 2015?
Yeah, ish. Well, when you start to hear Donald Trump talking, let's see if, like these aren't even lies. These are just like, is this guy okay?
There are some particularly interesting moments actually in that context. Also, the influencer briefings, we're going to do battle over the influencer briefings because I'm outnumbered on this. Ryan and Sagar want to tear them apart. And you know what?
The White House is bringing in social media influencers and hosting like parodies of press events.
So, some of them definitely deserve to be torn apart. So we will get into all of that. Trump also held a rally last night in addition to this interview with Terry Moran. He's celebrating his first 100 days in style, Ryan. So we have sound bites from that. And the Houthis, you're going to give us an update on...
I'm going to do a wide update on the war in Yemen. One of our $70 million fighter jets fell off an aircraft carrier. We'll talk about that. B, it appears that CENTCOM is now taking targeting information from random OSINT people. Sagar's going to like this one. Random OSINT people on Twitter and just killing innocent people because they're not double checking the work of these amateurs from like Europe and Houston. And along the way, they bombed an African migrant detention center. So far, 68 people have been killed in this strike. They said it was some Houthi base. It was actually a detention center. A quick health update on the Grimm family. We can bring Sagar in here.
Yes.
Because Sagar will appreciate this. When there was the overhead cam a couple weeks ago, I noticed I was going bald. And a lot of Breaking Points viewers said, you got to get this Hims minoxidil thing. I started doing it.
Are you serious?
So
I don't know, Ryan. You gotta check your testosterone levels on that one.
Was it really?
Yeah, that is a thing.
You should watch out. You should watch out.
Oh, so my T levels are going to collapse. The other health update. My wife's pathology report came back, and no residual cancer.
Amazing.
Cancer-free.
Congratulations.
There'll be some radiation and some other things, but real light at the end of the tunnel.
And a big relief for all of you.
Fuller head of hair, no cancer. Like things are looking up.
Life couldn't be better for Ryan right now.
I'm so glad to hear it, Ryan. And thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you being here. We're going to start by talking about the Amazon, the up and down with Amazon.
Right.
So Amazon begins the day with reporting in Punchbowl that they're going to start listing the extra price that you're paying based on the tariffs. They end the day without that. And throughout the day, I think is a lesson in our contemporary politics. But let's roll this first shot.
So it was reported this morning that Amazon will soon display a little number next to the price of each product that shows how much the Trump tariffs are adding to the cost of each product. So isn't that a perfect crystal clear demonstration that it's the American consumer and not China who is going to have to pay for these policies?
I will take this since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here.
Is Jeff Bezos still a Trump supporter?
Look, I will not speak to the president's relationships with Jeff Bezos, but I will tell you that this is certainly a hostile and political action by Amazon.
All right, so this allegedly hostile act was first reported by Punchbowl. After that White House interaction, you can move now to A3 very quickly. Here's Jeff Stein reporting on an Amazon statement that, quote, the team that runs our ultra low cost Amazon Haul store has considered listing import charges on certain products. This was never a consideration for the main Amazon site, and nothing has been implemented on any Amazon properties.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there is more. Donald Trump is asked about this back and forth. Let's roll Trump.
Jeff Bezos was very nice. He was terrific. He solved the problem very quickly, and he did the right thing, and he's a good guy.
So it went from Punchbowl to the briefing to Jeff Stein to Donald Trump himself. Sagar, what did you make of that play-by-play I think all of that went from like 8 a.m. till 1 p.m.
With Amazon stock moving as a result the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think my meta takeaway from all of this is just how different and how frankly weak this is compared to the Chinese system. I want to remind everyone, whenever we were covering this stuff last week, on the Chinese version of Amazon, they are actually advertising state subsidized discounts. They're calling them patriotic discounts, saying, hey, Chinese people, if you are patriotic, stand up to the United States, buy Chinese. Here is a discount from the state. We must save our supply chains. Meanwhile, here we are in our country where the price is going up no matter what, except the president and Bezos, one of the richest men in the world and the president of the United States are basically coming together to make sure that the label is not there to say that this is as a result of the tariffs. I also want to say this as well. The White House might be trying to do some sort of political layup. In the future, they're going to say, look, Amazon prices have not gone up all that much. That is just categorically not true. The reason why is that while the price may remain the same on Amazon, Amazon is currently engaged in economic warfare against all of its suppliers. I was just reading yesterday, Amazon is demanding, in the same way that Walmart, Target, and all the other large retailers are, they are saying to their suppliers, you are eating the margin. We are not touching $1 of this. They have the power of that because of the reliance of those suppliers on their platform. This is the problem. So Amazon, Target, and Walmart, they are all going to be generally fine. Yes, there may be some little bit of increase in price, but the real crime here is for the small business, let's say, that relies on Amazon. Let's say they do 60 or 70% of volume. I don't know if you guys saw this. There's a viral image going around of somebody who bought something from Hong Kong where they paid like $2,000 for the product and their custom duty charge is over the price of the good, right? So $2,500. So just imagine if you're one of these smaller suppliers, e-commerce company. There's so many of these companies out there that rely on Amazon almost entirely. And Amazon is telling them, no, you're eating that. And so Costco, Walmart, Target, and Amazon, the big four like major retailers, they have the power to tell those suppliers to eat margin. And that's great for them. But, that can result both in a wipeout of a lot of these suppliers, right? Because they can't have any profitability. And then worse, it can even manifest in empty shelves and less inventory. So we really are the ones who are losing here. And I just want to highlight the difference in these two state strategies. Like on the one hand, you have a state over in China, which is not just, they don't care about Amazon in their own way, right? Because they control it. Instead, they care about the suppliers that I just talked about. Those are the backbone of the United States economy. And they're the exact people who are not being helped right now by government policy. In fact, they're the ones who are freezing cash flow, have a lot of inventory uncertainty. They're the ones who are not placing, right? They're the ones not placing their orders in this dramatic freight drop-off from China. And so watching that, I actually, in a lot of ways, it's just like COVID. all the big companies, the Fortune 500, they made off like bandits. You know, who are the people who went bankrupt? Small business. You have restaurants. You know, employees or contractors and others. Those are the people that really suffer in something like this. And so that's where I want to zoom out of even just Trump and Amazon. And like, this is about meta high level strategy, and just watch at who's playing the game and who's actually winning that game.
And in the war with reality, this is a serious skirmish, because think about what the administration is objecting to. If there are increases that are the direct result of the importers having to pay this tariff, they're saying you cannot convey that reality to your consumers. We will not allow it. Yet reality exists, and so we can put up A5. So UPS announced that despite having strong profits for the first quarter, it's planning in the future going forward to cut 20,000 jobs. Part of this is these are companies that are always looking to lay off workers for any excuse they can find. But the excuse that they're finding here is that their main client, Amazon, isn't shipping as much stuff. And so while Amazon is, you're right, going to be able to tell its suppliers, we will not be accepting price increases. I've seen some of those emails that have gone around. It's an amazing thing to read. We will not be accepting price increases. How cool would that be to be able to walk into a store and be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't accept price increases, so I'm just gonna pay what this used to cost. Despite that power, they're still shipping less stuff because they don't have complete absolute control over everything, and as a result, there's less for UPS drivers to do, and so that's just one of the many, kind of to borrow a Reagan phrase, trickle down effects that we're going to see from this. The other reality interference is Bessent getting asked about where they are with China at this point. So let's roll the Treasury Secretary.
The Chinese continue to say that the U.S. and China are not engaged in any consultation or negotiation on tariffs. You recently said you've talked to your counterpart, but more about, quote, traditional things like financial stability. So can you clarify, is the administration talking to Beijing specifically about tariffs or not?
Well, we're not going to talk about who's talking to whom, but I think that over time we will see that the Chinese tariffs are unsustainable for China. I've seen some very large numbers over the past few days that show if these numbers stay on, Chinese could lose 10 million jobs very quickly, and even if there is a drop in the tariffs, that they could lose 5 million jobs. So remember that we are the deficit country. They sell almost 5 times more goods to us than we sell to them. So the onus will be on them to take off these tariffs. They're unsustainable for them.
And they are saying you guys are not talking about it. So is that true?
Look, they have a different form of government. They're playing to a different audience. So I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty, again, of who's talking to whom. But as I said, I believe for the Chinese, these tariffs are unsustainable.
And very quickly, 2 days ago, you said you didn't know if President Trump had spoken to Xi Jinping. Do you know now?
Again, I would say Caroline and I have a lot of jobs around the White House. Running the switchboard isn't one of them.
Switchboard.
Do they still have switchboards?
The switchboard.
Is that still a thing?
That's actually a really good question.
Did she come through the switchboard? God, did she? I know I meant to ask. Did he talk to she?
Shoot.
I saw him and I forgot to ask.
Yeah. Well,
Let's interpret. They're not talking.
They're not talking.
At any level. It's not happening. Go ahead, Emily.
Well, no, that's exactly what I was just going to say. Framing whether they're even talking to China as the quote unquote nitty gritty is completely wild.
No nitty, no gritty.
There's nothing nitty or gritty about that question. It's really the question for the entire global economy right now, and they don't have an answer to it, which is why they are framing it as the nitty gritty. Anyone else want to weigh in before we go to Howard Lutnick?
I just think broadly, again, like this is why we've seen such wild market swings, is that the administration just is addicted to floating these things, which are just not true. Like anybody with any expertise, China watcher, the Chinese, but this is the other thing. You don't need to speak Chinese. The Chinese Foreign Ministry puts out statements in English. We've never talked. We're not talking. We have nothing to discuss. Take the tariffs off and that's it. By the way, it's not just China, and this is actually what's concerning me the most. Remember, in Japan, Japan was held up as the first trade deal. They came here first. The Japanese prime minister giving a speech in the parliament. We are not going to concede to aggressive U.S. demands. In fact, the current position of the Japanese economic ministry is you must take the tariffs off before we're able to talk. Okay, that's the Japanese. Those are the people who we are friends with. The administration is now floating some trade deal with India. You know what's really funny about that, too, is it reveals how much of this is bullshit, because Scott Bessent actually said, a trade deal with India is a lot easier because they have lots of tariffs but less non-tariff barriers, right? And so he's like, we can actually come to some sort of negotiation. But the problem is that the administration does not have any genuine definition that they can even point to of a non-tariff barrier. They're basically like going back through their records and trying to make stuff up. And it comes back to the way that they talked with the Japanese. Remember, the Japanese have let me reiterate this, a 0% tariff on American cars. It is not because of tariffs. There are a lot of non-tariff barriers. We can talk about that if you want. But then, whenever the Japanese came here and they're like, so what do you want? You guys said this is reciprocal tariffs. And they're like, well, what are you offering? They're like, I can't even how am I supposed to do business with you? So, I mean, just what I want to highlight is that Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, and others and Trump are just completely schizophrenic in their messaging. And then, I mean, broadly, I know you guys have been talking about this, it is going to set in for people very soon. That freight drop, 60%, that's showing up. Okay. Sometime in June. It's very, my wife, obviously we're doing with all this baby stuff right now. She's like, hey, should we order that infant car seat? And it's not about the tariffs. Are we going to be able to get one 6 months from now? What about diapers? I'm going through researching where the diapers that we're going to buy are made, just to make sure. Hey, should I go and stockpile right now? 99%, by the way, of kids' toys. Ryan, as a parent, when do kids need toys? Actually, I'm curious.
I mean, you can get the ones that they stuff in their mouth like almost immediately, like the little pinkies and stuff, like pretty.
Right.
Pretty
Guess what? Over 95% of that is made in China, right? 95%. So, hope my kid is a Luddite. Just deal with the no toys, or maybe they're better off, right? Maybe I should go back to hand whittling and
yeah. I mean,
like
the reusable diapers. Reusable diapers are good. They've gotten a lot better, and they're probably made in China too. So you better get those.
Yeah,
now.
you're right. Yeah, those are also made. Go ahead, Emily.
Well, no, I was going to say, to Sagar's point, we have a clip of Howard Lutnick. This is Sagar's point about how the administration is addicted to floating things out into the public, and maybe it is just the sort of online addling of the American mind, where they love seeing the market shoot up, so they say stuff like this on CNBC. But Howard Lutnick sat for a long interview on CNBC yesterday, and we have some clips of that where he's pushed on the question of these deals. Let's take a listen to what he said.
If we get a headline that we've signed some deal with China and whatever, the markets are going to rip.
So,
or
Scott,
actually, I shouldn't say that. Would you say that?
Well, Treasury Secretary Bessent is focused on China. That's his portfolio. He's got to get something done with China. And my portfolio is the rest of the world's trade deals. So they are
That's
coming.
a big portfolio.
Oh, it's the greatest thing, because we have every country in the world, just like Donald Trump has said, who wants to do a deal with us. Now, here's the point. I have a deal. Done. But I need to wait for their prime minister and their parliament to give its approval, which I expect shortly. Well, I'm not going to tell you what country. Let the president.
It's just you and me here, and a couple million people hopefully
I'll
watching.
let the president decide. So, and then there are country after country where we're just working through the details. But you have to remember, they have prime ministers, they have parliament, they have to work through their process. But all of these are going to be coming. And what they're going to be is they're going to be incredibly smart. And key is, where are you going to find the people to work here? Right? You're north of Phoenix. Where are they coming? You go to the community colleges and you train people. So all the community colleges around here, Arizona State's on it, Grand Canyon, all these community colleges here are training people right now, technicians. And these are really good paying jobs. You start at 70s, 80s, $90,000. These are trade craft. It's time to train people, not to do the jobs of the past, but to do the great jobs of the future. This is the new model, where you work in these kind of plants for the rest of your life, and your kids work here and your grandkids work here. We let the auto plants go overseas. Right now, you should see an auto plant. It's highly automated, but the people, the 4,000, 5,000 people who work there, they are trained to take care of those robotic arms. They're trained to keep the air conditioning system.
All right, so who wants to take a guess at what Howard Lutnick's deal that he referenced there is, because I don't think we know.
No, we don't know. I mean, look, all the current reports are that it's India. And, I've even talked about this. Look, the Indians, yeah, they'll offer you some like fake tariffs and all these other things, but this is also the inconsistency that drives me crazy. India is one of the most protective developing economies in the entire world. We're talking about Japan, non-trade tariff barriers. That's a joke compared to what India does. I mean, listen, don't ask me. Go and ask anybody who's ever tried to go do business over there.
Yeah, Besson just talked about it
Scott,
yesterday.
Any of these folks. It's true. I mean, listen, no hate. They're doing what they need to do because they believe in protective economy. They don't want another country to be able to have any say over its global affairs. I respect that, but let's be serious here and not say that this is not one of the most difficult markets in the entire world for any U.S. company to do business in. That is just obvious. And yet, they're willing to take reciprocal tariffs maybe there, but they're not willing to take it over with Japan. The whole thing is just preposterous. And, the level of uncertainty that they've injected now, into the small business supply chain and honestly, even the pain that they're already, listen, the tariffs go off tomorrow. It doesn't matter. That's still an entire, month, maybe quarter of economic growth wiped out like that. And for a small business, I mean, look, it's only 7 to 10%, but I run a small business here with Crystal. I mean, can we really go a quarter with like no money? I don't really know a business that could do that. Or if you can, maybe you can make it work. But that's a lot of stress. That's heart attacks. That's, people getting fired, having to ask people to take, can I pay you in 60 days? That type of thing. You don't want to be doing that to your vendor. That has all cascading effects all throughout the economy.
And if you think about the blood, sweat, and tears that has gone into so many of these businesses, when you talk about the pain, like that's the part that has really been hitting me. And actually over at Dropside, I think we've seen a plateauing, even though we're not like importing anything, but just as people I think are, pinching their pennies more because the consumer confidence has completely collapsed. It's so hard to build a small or medium-sized business, and people put their entire lives into it. And then their lives depend on it.
Oh, and sometimes their
through
towns
no fault of their
depend on
own,
it.
the rug just being ripped out from under them is just brutal.
Yeah, and sometimes small
entire
towns are revolving
yes.
around these small businesses. And to Howard Lutnick's suggestion that we are bringing all these jobs, blah, 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 this administration has no industrial policy to train these workers, to augment changes in the market, to augment what might happen to small businesses. They actually have nothing. And so I think it's fairly audacious for Howard Lutnick to come out and talk about all of these things that should happen, that are going to happen, while the administration really, it's Sagar, maybe I've missed something. Are they putting any policy forward that is helping workers and helping communities and helping the economy broadly shift to meet the changes that they're inducing?
Well, I mean, I've been off the grid the last couple of days dealing with all this stuff, but unless anything is broken in the last 4 days, you can enlighten me. I mean, the current position of the United States government is that you will be charged a massive surcharge if you import anything abroad, even if you build it here in the United States. And thus, it is incumbent upon you to eat into your margin to invest here in America. Okay, I mean, look, we could talk numbers. Let's say 10 for 10, as in I would take 10% of my margin and you give me a 10% break on taxes. Everybody wins, right? I invest a little bit here. CapEx is super expensive. Ask anybody who's ever built anything in the physical world. And so I don't see one single proposal. In fact, the only civil war that I can see happening right now in Congress for Republicans is whether or not to cut Medicare or Medicaid. That's a whole other discussion. But we're not even talking about tax breaks for people who are small busissinesses or write-offs or any of this. If anything, actually, as I understand it, they want to take a lot of that away. It's called it's like 45X, I think. It's a manufacturing tax credit, which was built into the Inflation Reduction Act. They want to get rid of that, okay? And that was one of the only things that got, some of these companies to actually build and invest. Now, listen, it's fine. You know, the objection from the Republicans is like, oh, that's all this green energy BS. Fine, expand it for everything. Make it for oil. I don't care. You know, do whatever. Just make sure that it builds something here in America. If anything, you'd be like, yeah, you're right. It shouldn't be totally restricted to renewables or whatever. Build it for everything. You know, for the entire, you know, made in America. And then the green energy can get it. Everybody can get it. Fine, if that's what we want to do. But you don't even hear that, right? Because this is why it's just there's nothing to it beyond the surface level.
And on your Medicaid point, on your Medicaid point, real quickly, Bernie Moreno, the Ohio Republican, new freshman senator, just came out and told the House, forget it with your Medicaid cuts. Like, those are cuts. You're calling them not cuts. We see them as cuts, and we're not doing it. So, you know, the no's always win in Congress. So even that is struggling. Wanted to finish, though, with, speaking of reality, usually we go to...
Which one of you put Chinese propaganda in the rundown?
Yes. Usually we go to...
I honestly didn't know this time.
Right. So, but usually when it comes to the U.S. side, you can disagree or agree with them, but it's more likely to be based in reality. And the Chinese are the ones that are going to give you just flagrant nonsense propaganda. In this case, this is what the Chinese are putting out in English through their Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, basically in response, so trying to buck up the entire world against us, but also in response to the claims from the United States government that there are some deals. You know, there are conversations happening. They're getting down to the nitty-gritty. So this is a much longer video, but just a little slice of it. Watch this, and then ask yourself, is this a video made by a country that is engaged earnestly in negotiations with in a good faith way with a partner at the moment? So let's roll this from the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
The U.S. has stirred up a global tariff storm and deliberately targeted China, playing a 90-day pause game with other nations, forcing them to limit trade with China. This is just like the deadly trap of the eye of the storm. Bowing to a bully is like drinking poison to quench thirst. It only deepens the crisis. The U.S. once accused Japan of dumping semiconductors and crushed companies like Toshiba. Later, it forced Japan to sign the Plaza Accord, pushing the economy into decades of anemic growth. The U.S. also used long-arm jurisdiction as a weapon, breaking up France's industrial giant Alstom, robbing the country of a national champion. History has proven compromise won't earn you mercy. Kneeling only invites more bullying. China won't kneel down.
All right, Sagar, so does that sound like a country that's taking Trump's calls right now?
Yeah, it's just not. I mean, and you're right. You know, the other final irony here is about TikTok. Like, I again want to highlight that Donald Trump is trying to save TikTok, and the Chinese are like, great. And so they are flooding TikTok with stuff like that and targeting America's. I mean, I warned this would happen. We tried to ban it. You were the one who decided you were a king and that you were just going to subvert, you know, U.S. law and say that I'm not going to ban it. And it's like, you know what? I just feel like that scene in The Joker. I'm like, you get what you deserve, man. You know, it's like you have the entire population. Which is getting China pilled. I personally really like this guy. We played him here on the show, and he was like, "Hey, America, here's how many things made in my house from America." He goes, "Do you have anything made in your house from China?" I love this dude. I watch all of his videos because he's just.
You only have a house because of America, though.
Yeah, but you know, he actually used to live here, and so he understands us, and he'll just constantly be hitting back. And someone will be like, "Hey, what about 1989?" And he's like, "This is so." He goes, "You are so imbued with propaganda," and then he'll list off like Kent State and all these other. And I was like, "Hey, listen, I mean, the guy has a point. You know what can I say?"
He's a point about Kent State.
Well, as Trump says, you know, what, you think we're not killers?
Yeah, you think what do you say? We think you're so innocent? You think we're so innocent?
Yeah.
And there's something just refreshing, I think, about watching that now pervade because, look, I mean, I don't even think it should be here, but Trump is actively is the person who wants to save it and is now, you know, paying the price for the very thing that he's now trying to do with respect to tariffs. It's just amazing. You know, I wasn't able to join you guys for the 100-day episode, and it's like it's crazy. To watch them in the same breath, like this is the most successful 100 days ever. You know, I have a great FDR 100-day book behind me, and I'm like, this is a joke compared to I mean, what a joke. All we have seen is just, Doge is massive. Listen, we take their claim. I like to take people's claims and take the subjectivity out of it and just be like, okay, you said you're going to cut $2 trillion. Now it's going to be like 15 billion at best, right? At best. In terms of, because they said 150, and of that, actually 135 is fake. So 15 billion. Wow, congratulations. That's like maybe what, less than a day of overall federal spending.
I feel like I could do that in an
bullshit?
hour with the budget.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks. Then what? Mass deportation? Nope. Numbers are exactly the same as Obama and and as Bush. Instead, you've ignited all of this. Basically, you've opened a massive credibility gap with the whole Enemies Aliens Act. Trump is out there actually claiming that the MS-13 thing is real on Abrego Garcia's knuckles. That's the level of discourse which we've been subjected to. Signalgate, the ceasefire in Gaza, fell apart. The ceasefire in Ukraine, nothing there is currently happening. I would say there are only two A grades from my perspective. Again, in terms of what they said they were going to do. One is the Iran negotiations, which, as you and I know, very tenuous and that could blow up at any time. And the border crossings, they actually did accomplish that. Beyond that, I don't know. I would probably give them an F on every single one of the ways that this has been implemented. Again, both by its success, its implementation, and then sinking your goodwill with the overall American public. Now, it's Trump. Can he come back? Yeah. Listen, you'd be an idiot at this point to count him out entirely, but I don't know. I don't really know where things go from here.
And Trump seems to not be. Usually, Trump's genius is a tactile feel for where the American public is. He seems to have completely lost it, and he seems to be in a bubble. And we'll talk about that more in this next segment. We'll have ADP jobs report, we'll have GDP numbers, and we've got Trump's interview with Terry Moran. Stick around for that.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.